Okay, let's take a look at the topic today. That's chapter 5. The last chapter for this semester would be about digital security, ethics, and privacy, where we'll deal with all the threats, issue, and the defense. Return to the PowerPoint right now. You're going to find out this chapter would put focus on digital risk here. Digital risk here, we have to know what it really mean, and then who is causing it. That's why we take a look at those cyber criminals, and then we also take a look at some of the concepts like what we meant by unauthorized, say unauthorized use of computer, unauthorized access. And then we can figure out ways to fix all those kind of problems. After that, for this chapter, we'll also put focus on some safeguard issues. How can we protect ourselves so that even though we are at risk in digital world, we still be able to get some solution and protection for ourselves, so that we can have a better well-being online. And in so doing, therefore, this chapter also help us to review the concept of backup. And by the end of the chapter, we'll take a look at the proper behavior that we should be stressing when we are on the line. When we are using the online environment, and that's why we take a look at ethics stuff like what's meant by digital property and how should we view it, and what kind of proper behavior we should be having online or using digital devices. And that's why what we learned previously in chapter 1 about green computing also reinstated. And then we put privacy as the final discussion for this chapter. Kind of let ourselves rethinking about what we really be losing if we do not take care of our digital device in a serious manner. So what's first thing first? What is digital risk, so to speak? Digital security risk, so to speak. Digital security risk, as you see on this slide here, basically means any event, anything happen, anything's doing on us that would keep us lost. Loss of what? Loss maybe a computer. All right. Well, if this is a loss of computer, that would be actually quite limited to us, because if we don't have the iPhone, the notebook, well, it costs us a couple $1,000s of Hong Kong. However, if we are using the software, that actually a little bit more troublesome than the hardware, because we need a lot of the installation customization. But if we are losing a lot of the data and information, that may cause us an even deeper loss, because a lot of things here may not be able to reclaim or remake later once we lose it, right? So even though we think the hardware, software stuff are very precious things, ultimately, if we are losing something on the digital world, what we're losing is some of the previous work that we recorded earlier. And most of the time, those are the things that have the deepest impact on us, rather than the hardware, software stuff. Even though the hardware, software stuff will cause us some economical loss immediately, and we know a lot of people would feel very would develop a stronger hard feeling. But in the long run, actually, people find the losses normally come from the data and the information loss. Right. So anyone doing something like that is really bad, and that's why it's a crime. And in our legal system, it's now be classified as an illegal act to do it. So anyone causing damage, loss of our digital device stuff, they would be committing a crime as an improper use of computer device. And because a lot of the things that we want, we now work on the digital world, go online. That's why we also sometimes name it as a cyber crime, so to speak, because of the internet base that we see it expanding. Now, among all the things here that you see in this picture, one of the things that I want to highlight for you is this. All right. From time to time, we are thinking, wow, digital security risk, they should be from the outside. Well, it is mostly from the outside. However, there's also one that we have to say, consider very carefully. This is from the inside, because we can also be having trouble when we have a system failure ourselves. So if we are not taking care of the stuff, the IT stuff that we have, when the IT stuff fail, we also suffer a deep loss. And this time the loss is not from the outside people stealing things from you, but you're not giving the stuff well, so you lose the permanent record, good record, in precious record that you make from your device forever, right? So mind you, all the things that attacks on us, but the things that mostly crush us will be our system failures. And that's why this chapter would have some time spending on how we could safeguard against this by backupping the stuff that we have. Now, who caused the trouble is always the issue, and that's why now let's identify the bad guys. The bad guys in the digital security world will be the hacker, crackers, digital kiddo, corporate spy, unethical employees, cyber extortionists, cyber terrorists. Okay, to name it. Let's put hacker and cracker aside first, because I have a long say about it later. I start from digital crypto instead. So what's the crypto? Who are crypto script kiddo? Script kiddos are basically a person who make use of some break-in software or device in the digital world and try to gain benefit out of it. Well, those kind of digital crypto don't think they are really kind of a sophisticated person. No, they know how to use some of the IT stuff, but they use it in the wrong way. But they don't know really all that much about the device or software that they're using. They just make use of it to gain a benefit. So that the script kiddo. So therefore, script kiddo, most of the time we can just classify it as advanced user of IT, but they are not really proficient in it. Okay. In other words, crypto sometimes will be using some of the software that would backfire on them. So they would also be hacked by those who created all those software. Okay, so that's script kiddo. How about corporate spy? Well, in terms of spy here, the job basically is to steal things from the others. They have to sneak in, into some of the protected provinces and then get the stuff out of them to earn money. The corporate spies basically work for money. Most of them are very proficient IT people, right? They may be, because of the money needs, that they help some of the company to gather private information for them, and that would be corporate spies. So they have very good IT device break-in skill, and also they are very good at programming. Right? So those are the spies. They work for money. In other words, they work for money. So they have a rather wrong concept, you can put it that way, about how the proper use of IT. But they may not be all that bad. All right, they may be creating a trouble. Right, they may be creating a trouble in the system, but the trouble they created from time to time will not be so big as the kiddo, because even the spies create troubles on the security hole. They normally would kind of patch it because they don't want to be found anyway. And therefore, but the kiddos here, they created trouble, but they don't know how big the trouble is. So that's the difference between them. Right? So for those two, we name it bad people, right? They are not actually using IT in the correct manner. That's the same among them. Wrong ethical sense, in other words. How about unethical employees? Unethical employees among all those people here actually are the most difficult people to deal with. That's why I highlighted in that's why I kind of put it in black, right? And spy as well. They are, well, to a certain extent, rather natural people, right? They are not all that bad or good, right? This guy worked for money. They have high skill, but they don't have a very good and very high intention of breaking in people stuff here to kind of let people have a miserable life. So in that angle, you may not name them, all right, see them as all that bad, and that's why I put a black sign over it. They simply work for money. A lot of people in Hong Kong work for money, right? Solely, well, so they are no different than the others because their expertise on IT, and that's why they make use of their expertise to earn, but in the wrong way, of course, in the wrong way. So this kind of somewhere in between bad and good, right? Some people see it that way. Unethical employees, they are the people working in an organization. Maybe because of some hardship they experience in the organization that they may be having a demotion, so they have a lot of grievances. The grievances drive them to be a script kiddo, so they play some of the software in the company to break a hole there, so that the company will have information loss. That's unethical employees. Their gain there may not be really all that good or all that much. They are not gaining anything in a monetary manner. No, they may not be gaining any money. They just kind of satisfy of destroying their own company so that their grievance can be relieved. That's the kind of person they are. So they have another motive of expressing anger. Right? So they are sufferer. If you see it in a humanistic manner, and that's why I also don't really see them all that bad, because they have a reason to be like that, right? They have a rather inevitable reason that push them. Sometimes life is difficult, right? And that's why they can be something bad. So sometimes the employees they play some of the very deadly attack on a company network or company IT system. They don't know the consequences either. They may just be wanting to express or release or kind of alleviate their grievances, but ultimately they may be creating an even more detrimental trouble to their own company. Different from spy, unethical employees are very difficult to find because they are actually the authorized user in the network. Even though in the network we can always trace people, but because of their legitimacy in the company, they are very hard to safeguard or to guard against, because they are one of the proper employees in the company. How about cyber extortionists? Cyber extortionists work like a corporate spying. They work for money in such a way that they attack a particular server or system. Right. That's cyber extortionist. And so this is a money-driven attack. This is a money-driven attack by people who can pay. And once they pay it up, they will do something bad. Right. As cyber extortionists, because they are very large number from time to time. Right. So we give it a specific name, and because of their working is mostly on the internet, and that's why they have the term cyber before it. Extortionists. They have a wrong view, in other words, about their doing, right? Because they are too money driven. So a group of corporate spies would also be very likely to be cyber extortionists, right? They may not have very bad feeling about a particular company's server, just that if anyone can pay it up to kind of crush that server, they would do it. That's the kind of people we're dealing with from time to time in the cyber world. How about cyber terrorists? Well, cyber terrorists is somehow very similar to unethical employees. This time, this group of people, we call it terrorists because they have an ideology which they think another company crossed them. So they want to crush that company in a cyber way, and therefore they become cyber terrorists. So in a certain way, these cyber terrorists are rather fanatic. They are not so rational in their mind because they want to retaliate against countries or companies that wrongs them. So they do some attack in a cyber way on them. And that will be cyber terrorist. And that will be cyber terrorist. So no matter you're a terrorist, alright, okay, I don't mean you, sorry. No matter that's a terrorist or extortionist or spies nor employees or criminals, most of them actually fell between hacker and cracker. So what's a hacker and cracker? Let's take a look at them in detail. When we say hacker, normally people use this one to represent them, and a hack and a cracker, we normally see them as, okay, like that. A hacker, if you take a look at the meaning for them, they normally are the people who are very proficient in the IT field. And they always look for flaws in the system so they can fix it, rectify it. So that's the hacker. So is hacker doing something bad? Well, that's something I would say rather neutral, because there's always needed someone who are able to spot the weak point of some stuff and then try to see if there's any solution to fix it. So their motive may not be all that bad, so to speak. But for crackers, definitely, they are the troublemaker. They want to break the system because they have a purpose of, as you see here later, they have a purpose of malicious attack to gain to gain something personally. But for crackers, they break it just because of a professional viewpoint that they can see the discrepancy can be fixed or not. So that's the different purposes of crackers and hackers. In terms of layman's understanding for hackers and crackers, let's take a look at it here for the known as here. Normally, we see hackers as building things actually. So if this is building things, that's actually quite constructive, isn't it? But for crackers, they are the troublemaker. So they break things. They break things. That's the fundamental difference between these two groups of people. And for skill set, hackers normally they are IT people. They have very good advanced knowledge about it. What we meant by advanced here is they know computer programming skill, IT security, network skill. But for crackers, well, their skill level is normally not very good. They're not very skillful. Right? They know how to use the software in a very sneaky way, but they don't know the consequences of those software from time to time. So in terms of computer knowledge, they are basically incompetent, and we classify it that way because they don't even know how to program. They don't even know how to program. How about internet security viewpoint? Hackers, in terms of maintaining internet security, they are basically potentially helpful to restore security in a very good and robust manner. While for crackers, they don't. Because they always try to find flaws from the system in order to gain personal benefit. So they are breaking the laws from time to time. Therefore, out of this simple diagram here, the conclusion for hackers and crackers is rather clear. Hackers' sole purpose is checking the holes of the system and rectifying them. That's their major purpose. And cracker, they would do something illegal for personal gains. So returning to our slide here, therefore, we see that hackers, therefore, normally are IT people. But sometimes they are so obsessed with their knowledge for the hackers that they are willing to work as a spy for people for money, right? Because they are very fond of the excitement of finding the flaw in the system and patching it, okay? And that's why working as a corporate spy or even a cyber extortionist give them experience that they precious the most. You can put, oh, this is very kinky. Yes, it's very kinky. Indeed, it is very kinky. Some people, when they're too obsessed over professional knowledge, they can be very kinky, and that's why they can also be committing the crime in a legal perspective. While for crackers, that's rather crystal clear. They are pure evil intent person, try to make use of whatever stuff they are to gain personally. Right. So in a sense, ultimately, these two are doing the bad things, but they have some kind of a subtle difference that we just point out. So make sure you know them. Now, after we have the bad guy, here's what trouble they create would be something here. Those bad guys normally produce something, and that would be the malware. The malware is called malicious software. They normally do something without your knowing, or without your knowing, and then they do something bad. Traditionally, they produce virus or worm. Virus is any kind of malware that would have an immediate attack on your computer, right? So once you have the virus, your computer stops right away, and you have a big problem. All right, that would be what a virus would normally do. Worm, and on the other hand, would have some time to let this effect come out. And once a computer is infected with worms, all its memory will be used up gradually or in a very short time, and then the whole computer will get stuck. Now, viruses and worms are rather old-fashioned now. Right now, people in the world, they don't really kind of crush your system immediately, because once you know the system crushed, you know that they attack you, and the story ends, basically. And the same as worm. Right now, people want to get into a system, but they don't want you to know it, because they would want a long-term benefit from you gradually. And therefore, the more proper way of malware existing in the world right now will be in the form of adware, ransomware, rootkit, spyware, or Trojan horse especially, because those are much sneakier. Once they get onto your computer, you know they're there, or you don't know they're there, and you can hardly get rid of them, and they are not causing you a lot of the functional problems. So you still function with a computer even you carry them. And that's the major concern that we see right now. And you know your privacy is losing in a very gradual manner. Right? For adware, it is the minimal. It creates the most minimal effect on you negatively, because all it's doing is to pop up some messages to you. Most of the time, the adware is only causing you a nuisance, of trouble feeling, but they are not harming your computer in any sense. Of course, they use a backdoor, that you're going to know this term later, the backdoor. However, they are not all that detrimental to your system. They're just causing you some pop-up. But if you make use of the browser blocking the pop-up, pop-under windows, they are basically not functioning anymore. Or if you turn on the spam, right, on the email, that adware is no longer functioning. So people sometimes they ignore the existence of adware in their computer, even they have it. Ransomware, on the other hand, will be much more troublesome than adware, because this kind of software works similar as virus, which they will blackmail you for money. If you don't pay, they will crush your system right away. Okay, but this is not very successful, because they can also be found out rather easily due to their radical action. Once people get blackmail, of course, what they do? They would maybe report this one to the concerned person for help, and then because in the internet world, it's very hard for you to erase a trace you left. So ransom people can be caught quite easily, and therefore, during this couple of years, though there are one or two cases of ransomware happening internationally, those kind of person will get caught very easily, actually. So this is not very popular, even though this could be a very big problem, because this can cause an immediate attack or shutdown on your system. Rootkit, spyware, and Trojan horse, as compared with ransomware, would be much sneakier. If a computer is infected by a rootkit, it's hiding in the computer and take full control of it. Unless you find yourself getting harder and harder to control your computer, you start realizing that your computer is controlled by the others. That's rootkit. What rootkits want to turn actually is your computer into a zombie, so that it can make use of your computer to do the bad things for them. That's why they control your computer fully. That's rootkit, so that could be quite horrible. Once the computer is infected with rootkit, they don't know it. Maybe the rootkit is there for a very, very long time. Right? If the rootkit is very sneaky in a way that or it's not stealing anything from you, it's just kind of control you when you're not using the computer, hardly would you be able to find out that rootkit is there. And that's why this is very horrible in that sense. Spyware, quite similar to rootkit, but is not interested in controlling your computer fully. What is interested is to collect information from you, stealing money from your bank account, from your game account, and that's what spyware is doing, collecting it. But they're not collecting it in a very quantifiable manner that you will find them out. They will collect something from you bit by bit by bit, so that even if they are there, hardly would you notice that you're losing something gradually. And that's spyware. The difference between spyware and Trojan horse is only by the appearance. For spyware is there, if you use an antivirus, you check them out quite easily. But for Trojan horse, they would change themselves in the look that they look legitimate, just like your normal files. So you don't know they're there. That's Trojan horse. So Trojan horse has a disguise, in other words. That makes it even sneakier. Therefore, the most popular malware that we found right now in the world is not adware, ransomware, rootkit, spyware, virus, or worm, but Trojan horse. Trojan horse become a very popular attack worldwide. That it goes into your computer, it changes look, it disguises itself as a good guy, and then it keep collecting information from you, and the information loss that created by them would be the most from time to time. So, how can all those kind of bad stuff going to affect us? Believe it or not, once they are out from some of those kind of kinky or unscrupulous programmers, how can they reach you? By email from time to time. And that's why email is normally the first step you're getting the virus, because we like to click the email, and especially they rootkit some of your friends, and then you open the email of those friends, and then you get infected all alongside. All right. When you find it, you'll be like that person here, detrimental. All right. Apart from using email right now, we also find that some of those programs now kind of disguise themselves as a web page. So if you kind of turn to them, you also will be infected very easily. And therefore, web browsing and email reading becomes two very key way that we see in the world that people get infected by virus. And if a lot of rootkit comes together as a group and attack, they would become botnet. The attack they would create normally would be this one, called denial service. That means they create a lot of the communication to a particular machine, and the machines will then be isolated from the internet. The reason for that is one machine would have a limited amount of communication at one time. For example, maybe your phone. At one time, they can only allow 20 communications links. If you have 21, the phones can no longer handle so many of them, so the phones will cut out itself, and that would be denial service. So denial service would make a server unable to function, to link, to share with the others. In the old days, to sum up a lot of the machine to attack a particular server is not an easy stuff. You do it, you have to start from a place, and then you do it all there. And once you've done something like that, the marks you left on the internet will be easily traced, and then you can be found out very easily. Therefore, the more recent attack on DOS is they would distribute it all along a region, and making it very hard to find out who is really kind of kicking start of all those stuff. Right? And that's what we call the distributed DOS. Maybe they have some DOS start from Hong Kong, from Malaysia, from Japan, from Taiwan. So your effort of locating who is really starting the trouble would be quite difficult. Right? And that's the recent fashion of attack in the world right now. But how would those attacks be okay? That's because of the mechanism of backdoor. Backdoor is not all that bad because whenever a programmer or software engineer they make a software, they would use a way to get to the core of the system so they can fix it. And that's the backdoor. That kind of backdoor has the features that they bypass all the security controls of the system. Now, what malware makes use of is most of the time are those backdoor, and then they create more of those backdoors so that the system will be flawed totally, just like a rotten apple with many holes. And then they will make use of the hole to go in and out. So what antivirus will be doing from time to time is to clear all those kind of bad program first, and then to kind of block the holes, and then the system will become whole again. The techniques getting all those kind of bad programs to us is by spoofing. So spoofing here is actually a cheating technique. It would make it out looks very legitimate. The two ways for the malicious code or the malware go to us is by faking themselves as a good email or faking themselves as a good IP people. So you would accidentally let them in. Right? That's the technique they use in spoofing because they look legitimate, as is put here. And therefore, we need firewall. We need a filters. Firewall is like a filter to filter out all those kind of bad programs. Sometimes they look legitimate, and we hope that the firewall can do it as well. Firewall traditionally is a hardware, it's a computer that look after the network. So whenever there's anything go in and out, have to go through the firewall for checking first. Once the checking is over, they can go and kind of navigate along a particular network. However, to dedicate a machine to look after the networks is actually quite costly. Now we also see that firewall appear more like a software. It can be a software in your mobile phone or computer, or an operating system, and then it would keep checking in and out of the ports in your computer, so that only those with legitimate or rightful IP or identification can be communicating with you. But as we see here, sometimes if the people faking your IP, it will be quite hard for a firewall to screen them out actually. If the firewalls fail, what we have would be something like that here we call unauthorized access and use. Unauthorized access means without your permission, some computer connection established with you. That would be unauthorized access. That can be the start of the problem. Once unauthorized access happens, unauthorized use will come, because then the people, once they get into you through the communication, they may be taking your data away, erasing your program, and that all those things would be illegal stuff. So in order to stop people creating unnecessary or unrightful communication links with you, we have to find some way to stop it, and that's what we call measures. Okay, the simplest way for that, a very simple way for that, as you can think of, alright, in a humanistic manner is, okay, I just limit maybe 5 people in my company so that they can contact me. So that's the use policy. I will just let my boss, I will just let my supervisor, they're all together maybe 5 persons to contact me, establish communication link with me. Okay, if they are those persons, I will let them in. So that's a use policy. Is the use policy perfect? It's a good way that you control the access. However, it's not the perfect policy, as I can assure you, because sometimes the spoofing techniques can kind of disguise themselves as your boss, as your supervisor, in terms of email and IP. If they are doing something like that, even you have an acceptable use policy, you will also get infected by them very easily. And that's why apart from using a use policy to limit the people you can contact with, if you just disable all sharing most of the time, that would minimize a lot of the opportunity for people contacting you in an unauthorized manner. Of course, disabling file sharing or printer sharing is like disabling your hotspot. It would cause you some inconveniences because once you have to use it, you have to activate again. Right? However, this kind of close down on a normal basis would be a very good safeguard because it would basically exterminate all form of possible communications when you are not using your computer. So apart from these two methods, if we are adopting a use policy, more often than not, then we have to make use of some mechanism to safeguard this use policy. One way of it, of course, is to identify who you are so that I know whether you can go in or not. Access control, therefore, come out is to determine who and when people and what action they can do. And therefore, it involve identify who and when can use it and what actions they can do. This is actually summarized from time to time in terms of username and password. We need a person with the proper username and password, and then we allow them to do so and so things in a limited time interval, and that's also a way for you to identify this is the real person working with you. Apart from password, sometimes people will set PIN alongside so that you have another password protecting you, or another passcode, or they use a phrase. So whenever you have to access a particular computer, apart from your password and username, you have to say a special phrase, like in the story of Aladdin, when Aladdin need to access his or her his stolen stuff, he had to set to the genie, open sesame, and then the door opens and then he goes in. So that's a passphrase. This is also popularly used. I don't mean open sesame, but the use of passphrase is very popularly found in the IT field. Now, using a passphrase, using an additional personal identification number, PIN, is a good idea. Sometimes people would also make use of a card as an extra identification check for you. Just like you go in a particular building, in a housing estate, for example, you have to put out a card and beep and tap on it to beep it, to pass it, so that you can access it. Alright, so those are the three major mechanisms that we normally see whenever we want to eliminate unauthorized access by means of use policy. However, sometimes we really forget the passphrase or the passcode, or even forgot to bring the possessed object. Then no longer you can enter your rightful premises on IT. Therefore, people fear of forgetting all those things, or they would make use of their own biological identification trace so that the system recognizes, and that would be the concept of biometric. Biometric is actually make use of our body distinctive features so that it can identify us and let us go to use the particular mobile or computing device. All right. Now, to classify biometric method, we are not actually unfamiliar with that because our society filled up with all those stuff. The most popularly seen, of course, is the fingerprint recognition. Computer right now, no matter that's desktop or notebook, they sometimes have a way for you to just kind of recognize your fingerprint and then you can use it. That's like a login. If you want a much more accurate login, you can use hand, and that's the way we use in the e-channel for Hong Kong immigration. But the most popular one that people are now developing is the face. To recognize your face, so faking your face, misguiding using the face is not very easy stuff, so people make use of it to recognize you, and together with your voice as well. Even though we know the voice would go rather unstable at times when you have a problem, all right, in your health. So with signature, sometimes signatures is also changing a certain years, but they have a pattern, so it can also be used to identify you, as well as our eyes, that we have a pattern on the eyes called the iris. All right, the iris has a very special pattern, different from person to person. This is also quite like the fingerprint method to identify you. Right. However, using only one method up there is not very safe, because people can fake it quite easily. Therefore, more and more that you see that when you go into a particular protected area of IT use or system, they use a two-step verification. That means apart from, for example, using your face as a login, they also need your voice. Right. So you have two ways to satisfy before you can get in, and that would make the login procedure harder to break by all those intruders. And in the mobile phone, they may sometimes need your face or fingerprint together with an SMS they send you separately. And that SMS only lasts for maybe 5 minutes. And that's also a two-step verification that we see right now in the world. Now, together of method keeping track on all computer evidence of people working, and so you can identify a person and identify the best stuff that they may be working on, is what digital forensics working on. Digital forensics is actually evidence-based collection of computer and network use, so we can analyze people's behavior. This is very helpful in law enforcement. That's why you see in controlling the city order, law, criminal prosecutor, and also in military field, they use digital forensic extensively. Now, this one also extends to other industry and military. That would be insurance, because of the big amount of money to claim by the policy buyer. Insurance company from time to time need to identify the person rightfully to the claim, and therefore they would also make use of digital forensics to trace people. And of course, the security departments in the country would take a special look at this topic as well. And then the next issue that we have to take a look at, apart from unauthorized access to a computer, is someone who get into a computer and is stealing from you. Once they stole from you, in the first place, maybe the software. Alright, the software. So software theft is what we're taking a look at right now. Software theft would happen where in the old days, when you have software saving on your, say, CD-ROM or DVD-ROM, and you just get it stolen or Blu-ray. Now that is a classic example of stealing software media. Right now, however, software no longer stored on, say, a physical media. This stealing of software media may be getting more and more irrelevant. Now, people may illegally copy software. That's also an old way of doing that, because once they copy a software, they have it. Alright, it's like having your own money or assets. However, right now software has a lot of the activation process involved. Even you steal the software, you can't use it. So gradually, it's fading out in software theft. A more often occurrence of software theft will be these two: intentional erasure or unrightful activation. Well, to mean a software, why would people intentionally erase software from one person to another? Because there's always a quota for software use. If they erase your usage, they would have one more quota for another usage that they want. And that's why in software theft, they have a very high intention of erasing our software so that they can activate them illegally later. So these two become hand in hand in software theft. So how can we stop all those people from stealing software from us? That's about something that we will explore more in our next class. So we stop here for today first.